Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. Over here, we actually care about what you have to say. I read every single comment. At any of the other channels, they don't care about what you have to say. They think we're just a bunch of clowns on YouTube, Twitter, but I think it's the opposite. I think we know exactly what we're talking about, so I really want to hear your thoughts and opinions on these topics. So without further ado, let's get into it. We're watching a clip of First Things First, talking about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. And, Mike Tomlin's saying that, Russell Wilson is in pole position, right? Like he is essentially, the leader. But saying pole position doesn't necessarily mean that it's solidified. You didn't finish the race at first place. So, he's saying, I think Russell Wilson has, the edge necessarily, but it's opening up the door that it's possible that Justin Fields could actually start, which I already think this whole situation is already getting significantly messier than it needed to be. But let's take a listen to see what these guys have to say, and then we'll break it down from there.
Welcome back to the show. Mike Tomlin has two new quarterbacks on his roster.
This didn't take long.
Is Russ the starter? Not exactly. Is there a QB competition? Maybe. Here's Mike Tomlin. Take a listen.
We're not resistant to competition, but as I've mentioned several times of late, I just think it's appropriate to establish positioning as we get into this thing. And the term that I've used is Russell has pole position.
Okay. It's a great video game and Russ's status within the Pittsburgh organization.
It's also the way a race starts.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a competition.
That's with the video game.
Yeah.
Called pole position.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Brew, are you nervous Russ might not be the week one starter?
Nervous?
Okay, here we go.
In fact,
What does that mean?
What is that?
you
We
remember
said there was no competition.
No, you remember
This guy.
2 weeks ago.
Uh-huh.
I said I used the term number one on the depth chart.
Yeah.
Tomlin used the term pole position.
Yeah.
Same thing. I said they should go in there. Russ should be number one on the depth chart.
Yeah.
And if it's close, even if Justin's a little better, if it's close or obviously Russ outplays him, Russ is the starter. And Russ would have to be horrible, Justin would have to be great, and then you start Justin. This is exactly what I said they should be doing.
Hold on,
Russ should be the starter right now, but it's somewhat of a competition.
But hold on, I'm confused because that might have been what you said 2 weeks ago. But 1 week ago,
Yeah,
you were
Thursday,
adamant.
I think-
Whenever it was, you were adamant that
he
this
would
was,
be on the team.
that Russ was the week one starter no matter what.
He is the depth. No, he's number one in the depth chart, and I think he will. I do think he'll beat out Justin Fields. But my point is this, because we were talking about would he get cut if he's not,
if he's not
Fields
the
starts.
week one starter.
Even if Fields, which I sincerely think Russ will start. And
Right, that's the whole thing, right? It would be pretty hard for him to be in the pole position and then get to a point where he'd be like, you know what? We're just cutting Russ completely. Like that would be a complete 180, and I think that's what Brew is essentially trying to highlight.
beat out Fields. But even if Fields were to get that job, Russ, it makes sense to me to keep him because what if Fields doesn't play well?
Sure.
What if Fields gets hurt? You know what I'm saying?
that
But
would be-
yeah, I think this is exactly Tomlin and I are like this.
All right, so let me ask you this,
It's
bro.
right.
Are
It's
you?
the right
Are
way to
you?
look
I
at
know
it.
you're not a gambler,
No.
but if I were to set the over/under on, and let's give him health, okay? It is bets.
They're all healthy.
Yeah, bets voided if there's an injury.
Right.
If I were to set the over/under on starts next season for Russell Wilson at 14.5,
Oh,
would you take the over?
no way.
13.5,
Nope.
12.5.
Is he asking you?
I'm asking when
I'm
there's a
gonna say-
number
No,
you would feel
I think he's
comfortable
going to
with.
start 13 and a half. I'm over that.
Oh,
Or 14.
okay.
If he starts 13, he'll likely start
Okay,
14,
so you
15.
think he's, so here's what I think.
I think he can go there and play well. I
Yeah,
think if they had Russell, and again, you and I, we disagree on the degree, but he wasn't quite as good as the numbers. But if Russell Wilson goes in there and plays slightly better, which I think he will, than last year, this team is good.
So I think he's more likely to start 0 than 15. I think he is more likely to get beat out in camp and to not
That's going
be
to be
there.
hard for him. Don't you think it's going to be hard for him
No,
to get
not that Tomlin's now had the door open. And here's
Well,
the
it
other thing.
should be
Here's
open.
the sneaky thing about last year's Russ's season. It's not just the 26-8's wildly misleading. It's
Passer
that
rating,
okay, but
sixth in the
it's
league.
he had a great first month. First month of the year, 11 touchdowns, 2 picks, 106 rating. He's actually throwing for real yards. And then the last 10 games, everything plummets.
Didn't
The
they
yards
lose those
become
games, though?
embarrassing. Yeah, that was the
They
game
were
the defense
winning.
couldn't.
They were winning.
Oh, that's right.
They
The
were
bad defense and they were losing, but he was throwing
playing
the ball.
well. He's
Yes.
throwing the ball, and then the end they got on a little winning streak, and then he got benched. The only thing that's consistent
15 and
is
6 isn't bad.
All right, I hate these type of stats because this is where you get called recency bias, where whatever happens most recently means what people feel as though is more the reality of the situation, right? Where if you play 10 games and the first 5 you ball out, right? You're throwing 400, yards and 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, and you're balling out. And in the last 5 games, right, just the opposite. You're throwing for 180 yards, 5 interceptions a game, just a disaster. People look at the more recent and say, well, that's actually who he was. It was a fluke. Those first 5 games, that was a fluke. He just was hot. Now, the other 5 games, that's more who he is. We do this in sports all the time, right? It's when we talk about being like a prisoner of the moment. And it can work both ways, right? Where someone starts off really bad, and then they get real hot. And we did that with Jordan Love. Jordan Love didn't have like the best start to the season, and then kind of post Thanksgiving, he balled out, and everyone's kind of like, this is who Jordan Love is. This is who he is, not what he did before. So it can kind of work both ways in that regard. But with this specifically, with Russ, I'm not going to dig in right now too much in the idea of like, do I think Russ will be good versus not? Honestly, I feel like we've already kind of unpacked that. And at this point, it's just like everything else is just guessing. And I'm not a huge fan of predictions to begin with because we just have zero idea. Just the fact that we even say we don't know who's going to be healthy, this, that, over, under, how many games does so-and-so play. Like, that's less interesting to me personally. I look at it from a couple other different perspectives that I think are more interesting. So follow me if you can. First off, when you look at data like this, the first 5 games versus the last 10 games, there's nothing in the data and in logic and science and the way the world works to say that those first 5 games were great and that those last 10 games are the true representation of who are. Granted, in this specific example, 10 games is more than 5, so it's a bigger sample size. But again, I'm not looking at those numbers deeply. I'm not going back in time right now. I don't feel like it, quite honestly, where I'm going to look and see, well, let's actually see how those games actually unfolded. What was the situation? There was also started to become some drama between him and Sean Payton. Who were they playing? Were they playing exceptionally better defenses? What's actually the story here? Were there some key missed passes, missed catches, that would have changed everything? What was the run game like? There's just all of this type of stuff. And again, I don't think Russ particularly had a good season last season. I think that his numbers were somewhat inflated or a little bit misleading. But so I don't want this to come off as that I'm just kind of defending and trying to say, hey, I actually think Russ is a really great quarterback and he's going to ball out. But I think it's like right now, somehow Russell Wilson has become this divisive figure where people either say he's terrible and trash or he's great actually. And, the Broncos were just a poor fit for him. And I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think, honestly, what I think he ends up, what he kind of is, he's like an aging, older Dak Prescott at this point, right? Like, that's kind of what he is. He's Dak Prescott 5 years from now, 6 years from now, where he's just not the same player, not the same arm, not the same, legs. The resilience is actually kind of beating him up because you could see Dak slowly kind of get beaten up a little bit mentally. And I feel like that's kind of where Russ is in a lot of cases right now, of just being like, man, I'm kind of just, maybe even somewhat burned out by all of this, by, all of this recent adversity that I've been facing. So I think what you get with Russ is solid, decent, okay quarterback play, but nothing amazing, nothing terrible, but at the same time can still have amazing moments and can also have terrible moments. So the real question is where does that all end up balancing it out? And to me, that is always just an absolute coin flip and a roll of the dice and anything else in between. It really is. You just don't know when you throw in inconsistency into play and into quarterback play, into any sports for that matter, you don't have any idea how it's going to unfold. That's why players that are truly great and elite, like the Patrick Mahomes, like the LeBron James, the Steph Currys, I know I'm mixing up sports here because it's all relevant, is like it's dependability, it's the consistency. You know, with a really great high level of confidence, LeBron James is going to put up 30 points, 10 plus rebounds, 9 assists, whatever the heck the averages are at that given moment. Like, you just know that. You know with real great confidence. When inconsistency starts to play, and for those of you who are basketball fans, like Tobias Harris is a great example, you have zero idea when he's going to have a 10-point game or a 30-point game. You have no idea. It's impossible to predict. It's just not dependable. Right. And it's like, you see this in your own personal life. If you're talking about like dating or family or friends or relationships, when someone is unpredictable and unreliable, it's unreliable. You have no idea. Are they going to show up? Are they going to be a positive, loving, happy person? Or is it going to be that they're really negative today and down and depressed and bitter and mean? Like, you just have no idea. So you have no idea how these games then end up unfolding, which makes it incredibly hard. It makes it incredibly hard to game plan. It makes it incredibly hard to, to prepare and evaluate and look into the future and see what you got. It just infects you from start to finish because you just do not know. And that is, without a doubt, one of the best benefits that you get from, say, a Patrick Mahomes, is because, right, it's like the defense now knows, okay, as long as the game is within reach, well, that's all we have to do is keep the game within reach. And if we can just, be down by 3 or down by 6 or even down by 8, like with 1 minute to go, and we can just get Patrick Mahomes the ball, we know that we have an amazing chance at tying the game or winning the game. We know that for a fact, right? No question, no doubt. That is foundation building. Right. And, there's only so many players in the history of the NFL that can really claim to that. So that level of confidence is also on a spectrum right now. But it is one of those things that, like, once you reach this certain threshold of unpredictability, you just have no idea what you're going to get. And I think that's where, we're at right now with a Russell Wilson, and it can either be from game to game, quarter to quarter, moment to moment. It's really hard. And I am interested to see what he looks like in a different in a different environment. I have a little bit more to say about the whole Justin Fields and the over/under when he's going to play, but let's see what else they have to say, and then we'll go from there.
He's 3 sacks every single game, first 5 or last 10, 45 sacks and 15 starts, which is why he lost his job. Here's the other thing.
He and Fields have that issue.
Correct.
Yeah.
If it's close, who do you think the locker room's going to like more? Because I got an idea. Justin Fields damn near is the mayor of Chicago in exile right now. What's the last locker room to love Russell Wilson? Somebody tell me. Who do you think is going to be more popular?
Or Wisconsin.
NC State.
Wisconsin.
He had to leave there too, buddy. And again,
I don't think that's fair.
Why?
Because there are people around the league that like Russ.
I understand.
And he has to have been humble.
Got it.
He shouldn't go in there thinking about my office. He shouldn't go in there making videos talking about let's ride and all that. Russ needs to be humble, bro.
I get all that. But the question I'm asking, which is why I don't know why, I'm surprised by your stance on this. What's better for the Steelers? If the Steelers
I'll agree that if they find a gem in Justin Fields and he's their quarterback for the next 7 years, that's great for them. That's
obviously
great. But I think Russ, can play well. He needs to bounce back here.
Can I ask you a question, bro? Why did Ryan Poles say, I think he said it again, that he did right by Justin Fields to trade him to sit on the bench behind Russell Wilson?
Honestly, I think he's being nice.
So you think it's just a lie that somebody offered a 5th-round pick for him?
Yeah, I don't think he was getting.
You don't think Philadelphia would rather Justin Fields than Kenny Pickett? Because I do. And I think Chicago
don't think he was getting great offers.
No, but do you think he had?
Kenny Pickett is going to be significantly cheaper. If they kept Justin Fields, they were going to have to pay him the next year $25 million. So no, they don't really want to have to give up. I think, you kick the tires on a Justin Fields if you're, say, like the Eagles or whatever, but the GM is not trying to do Justin Fields a solid. He's just not. okay? He is on thin ice. He needs to have success now. Otherwise, the GM's job is done. He's gone. See you later. Bye. Now, you know, God knows when you're working again in the league, especially as a GM. So this idea that all of a sudden we live in this kumbaya world, get out of here. He was doing everything he needed to do to make sure that the Chicago Bears and that the Caleb Williams and company are in the best position to succeed. No ifs, ands, or buts. He is not considering Justin Fields' feelings. I do not believe that for a second. Not for a second.
You think this was his only offer?
I think he's trying to, the 5th round pick. I mean, look, his future, Jalen is young. How old is Jalen?
What?
He's probably a
26.
decade younger than Russell Wilson.
I know,
So
but Russ
even
is
if
not
Russ starts
42.
this year, yeah, but he's 35, I think.
Sure.
Even if he starts next year, the future could. You look at those two teams. Jalen Hurts is the future in Philadelphia. Russell Wilson may or may not be the future, and if he is the future, it's only for a few years in Pittsburgh.
Kirk Cousins is the future in Atlanta, and he's 36 and has one
Well,
Achilles.
Kirk has played better than Russ the last couple years.
Russ should have chosen the Giants. I know we're about to get to them. He should have chosen the Giants.
He would have no chance to play well.
What? He could beat out Daniel. He could have a better chance to be the starter.
He could start, but how
Yes.
good would they be?
Buddy, any
Pittsburgh
team with
has
Russell
a
Wilson
chance.
as the starter is not going to be good.
Pittsburgh has a chance.
Okay.
All right.
All right, well, now they're just getting distracted here, talking about the Giants and stuff. But I wanted to bring it back to Justin Fields. This idea that it's good for Justin Fields to be in a quarterback competition, or that, you know, they should start the season 6 games, 7, 8 games deep, and then they're going to throw in Justin Fields. Guys, I feel like I'm going insane here. You're setting up Justin Fields to fail. Treat Justin Fields like a brand new rookie. Treat him not even like his age. Treat him like he's 20 years old, okay? Like he's looking in the mirror and hitting puberty. Because this idea that he can now go to a completely different city, a true football city too, Pittsburgh. They have high expectations. They expect to win. They're a passionate fan base. And that he's going to be able to now, you know, he got owned in Chicago. He got beaten and battered in Chicago, and they didn't even keep him. They moved on from him, you know, before he was even, you know, ready to extend. They said, nope, we're done. Get out of here. We're getting Caleb. I mean, like, that is just one of the most humbling things you could ever experience, or at least it should be. And so this idea that he now has, you know, the fortitude and the strength and the ability to truly thrive and succeed after just getting your butt kicked, to now compete for a starting role in Pittsburgh, or you're going to now replace, you know, Russell Wilson, because if you're going to be doing that midseason, that means they're not playing well, which means the Steelers would be like, you know, again, making up numbers here, 2-8, right? It's like, okay, great, let's throw Justin Fields in there now. While all of the Steelers, all of the players are dejected. The players who already have a contract set up are just like, man, this sucks. I'm not sacrificing my body for this. And, you know, the guys who are real old and on the verge of retirement are just like, my God, man, I'm not sacrificing my body for this either. Like, you know, like, it just gets exhausting. Like, there's no more optimism that you can make the playoffs and you're excited and you're just trying to grin it and bear it. I'm not saying that these players just give up, but it's a different energy, a different mentality. It just is. It just is, okay? Players do give up. And not every player plays 100% all the time. Not to mention also, if you're playing that deep in the season now, players are also more banged up and injured. And it's just messing up the flow. Practices are different because you're not going through, you know, training camp and preseason. It's just a different flow. Everything is different, you know, in the middle of the season. So to me, from my viewpoint, throwing Justin Fields, who objectively and subjectively failed in Chicago. I don't care. We could dig into some of the numbers and be like, well, he had some success and this, that. I don't care. At the end of the day, it was a failure. The team that drafted him said, we do not want you. And you know what? A lot of teams around the league do not want you. We could get essentially nothing in return for you relatively of what you should be, okay? And so this idea that you're going to throw him in this situation that's not ideal, why are you expecting him to succeed? He didn't succeed in a more ideal situation. Now you're going to throw him into a less ideal situation and expect to have more success? That does not make sense. It does not make sense. So if you think Justin Fields could potentially be the future of your team, then you just take things slow. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's worth repeating. I'll probably have to say it again. It's like you say, Justin, we're going to take the chance on you. We're going to extend you for $25 million for the next season. This season, Russ is going to start. And you're just going to get comfortable. You're going to learn the playbook. You're going to learn the players. You're going to learn to be a leader. You're going to learn what it's like to be part of Pittsburgh Steelers football. You're going to, Arthur is going to, get you right. We're going to work on your mechanics, this and that, work on your reads. We're going to do everything. You're going to learn from Russell Wilson. We know Russell Wilson, has gotten some kind of a bad reputation as of late. He's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Are you a Super Bowl winning quarterback? You are not. He knows what it takes. You're just going to soak up everything he does, watch his preparation, see this, and it's just going to be a nice, smooth process. And there's no pressure. No pressure at all. You're not going to be all antsy on the sideline. Am I going to get in? Am I not going to get in? Oh my God, we dropped 3 games in a row. Does that mean am I going to be playing next season? I don't know. They're asking Mike Tomlin, at the press conference. None of that. The whole thing is to turn the temperature down, the volume down. Let's all chill. We believe in you, Fields, but we want to take things slow. We're going to rebuild you, and there you go. And then next season, you are the starter. You are entering training camp as the starter, and then you are entering preseason as a starter, and then week 1, you were the starter, and you are going to start from 1 through 17 as long as you don't get injured. You are going to start. There's no risk of you being benched. Even if you're getting blown out, you are not going to get benched, at all, okay? You are the player. We are giving you everything. We have the trust in you. That's how much we trust you. Building his trust up, his confidence, everything, the relationships, all of that. So he truly feels at home. So he makes a statement, where he comes out and says, man, I've never felt more supported in my life as I did in Pittsburgh. That's what you want. Not this, I don't know, is he going to play? Is he not going to play? Oh, 4 weeks in, the Steelers are 1-4 or they're 2-2, but Russ is not really playing that good. Should we take Russ out and put Justin Fields? Right now the defense is leading it, and imagine if you had Justin Fields in there, maybe they could be, 3-1 or 4-0. That's a dance that someone like Justin Fields has not been proven to be able to handle. And so you're just going to put him potentially in a situation to fail. And then what are you going to do? It's then what do you do? Then it's you kind of blew your shot, So that's just the way I see it. I would absolutely love to hear your views on this one. I read every single comment, so please let me know how you feel. What do you think? Should Justin Fields start? Should Russell Wilson start? Do you think it's okay if they start Russell Wilson and then throw Justin Fields in mid-season? Let me know in the comments below. Let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that you're really excited to be part of, and I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.